I'm the Soundtracker, and today we're going to talk about fixing this problem in a Pioneer DVL-919 Laserdisc Player. Yep, the disc is being drawn into the unit, but not able to get into position to be played. Now, you might also hear this sound if the drawer isn't opening, and it's the same problem causing that. The belt is just old, worn out, or just flat out turned into a rubber mush. Now, the most common problem that I tend to find in old electronics with moving parts is that something either needs new grease to move again, or perhaps needs a new belt to help whatever was moving in the first place. So, in the case of this player, it needs a new belt. It seems a little counterintuitive at first. I mean, why a new belt? Well, everything in the player revolves around a small motor beneath the tray. That motor is responsible not only for pulling in the tray, but for lifting the disc into position so that the disc can be read. It's important that the belt be in good shape so that the mechanism can function correctly. This same concept applies to DVD players, Blu-ray players, CD players. Essentially, if it has a drawer-loading tray like this, it probably has a belt, and if the drawer sticks or stutters when it's opening or closing, like in this thrift store Denon DVD player that I have, it's time to find a new belt for the mechanism. Belts come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. I mean, there's square belts, there's flat belts, there's belts with teeth, and round belts. All of these exist, and you can usually tell at a glance by the shape of it what kind the mechanism will need. Now, for small motors inside of disk drives like the Laserdisc Player, DVD players, Blu-ray players, it'll 99% of the time be a square belt, though size may vary on that. So it's for this reason alone that I usually end up just buying a pack of square belts and trying to match the size to one of the ones in the disc player that I happen to be fixing at the time. Now, these are very, very easy to find. You can find them on eBay. Hobby stores that specialize in models and small electronics may carry them. They're very easy to come across. For the DVL-919, in order to tell what size is needed, we need to be able to get to the belt itself, and fortunately that is very easy on this machine. First, we need to remove all of the screws on the perimeter of the machine in order to pull the cover off. I'm going to be aiming for every screw on the absolute outermost border of the unit because that's usually what fastens everything together. In this case, Pioneer built this unit like a tank, so there are quite a few screws to get at, but they should only take a few minutes to remove. These are the only screws that will need to be removed, and they are delightfully simple to keep track of. There are only two colors. The black ones go to the sides of the machine, and the brass ones, I presume they're made of brass, I think. These ones go to the back, and there is no size difference between them, at least as far as the back screws being able to be swapped with back screws and side screws being able to be swapped with side screws. Pull the top back and lift slowly to remove it, and we can get our first look inside of the machine. There is a lot of stuff in here, much of it deserving its own videos, but let's have a quick look around. So, we have a laser caddy in the back, and yep, this machine has two lasers in it, one for Laserdisc applications and the other for DVD. It switches between the lasers as necessary, depending on which eject button you hit. There are two separate eject buttons, one for the DVD and CD door, which is a smaller door inside of the main door, and another eject button for the Laserdisc side of things, where it'll eject the whole tray if you need it to. Depending on which button you hit, it'll pull out the appropriate laser for that application. Over here we can get a good look at our circuitry. This is one of the daughter boards that's attached to the top, and I think it's pretty much just DVD applications because I just don't see this player as having the DVD functionality built into the main motherboard, which is down below. It's quite difficult to get a look at the main motherboard, but from here at least you can see through an opening that there's some potentiometers on this side here. And I'm facing the entire wrong way. Neat. Now that I've readjusted myself, the potentiometers here look to me to be like tracking adjustments for the two lasers that are inside of the machine. And the main motherboard itself is connected to the inputs and outputs for some of the audio applications here. And immediately across from that on the side of the machine, we have another I/O panel, which I'm pretty sure is also just for video applications because the S-video, composite video, and the component video are all connected to that card. Here's the other side of the card, and it makes sense to me that they would have put the video I/O as a separate thing given the amount of stuff that needs to be attached to it. So anyway, here's all the rest of the stuff as mounted from the back. And I always wondered why some ports were spaced out the way they were, like why video applications would be so far from the audio ones. I guess it just depends on the board and how spaced out they need to be. This bar here is meant to support a disc when it's playing by means of a clamp on the underside of it, and speaking of which, this is the spindle for the discs. It's capable of adapting to the sizes and speeds of each disc that the unit plays, and it plays a lot of stuff. These are all separate formats, and each and every one of them is capable of being played in this one Laserdisc player. And that's just video. These are all the audio formats that it's capable of playing. It does literally everything. Alright, so I got a little off track because I love this thing. Anyhow, we had a quick look around the machine, but there's one thing we haven't spotted yet, and that is the belt. It resides underneath the tray right here. And fortunately I'm getting to it in time, so it's kinda easy to get to in this case. Since the unit is still able to draw in the tray and push it out, I'm able to just hit eject, and I can open it pretty easily and access the belt. Another important thing to mention though, once the tray is open, make sure you unplug it. Don't power it off, don't touch the tray, just unplug the unit and take the cord out of the way. If you start messing around with the tray and it's still powered on, it'll try to draw the tray back into the unit, and you don't want that to happen while you're working on it. Alright, so the tray is ejected, the unit's unplugged, and it's still a little bit difficult to get to the belt, which is down below this thing right here. Fortunately, it is dead simple to remove the tray. There are two tabs in the back that keep the tray inside of the machine when it's in normal operation. This one right here, and another one over here that you can just kind of see poking itself out right there. Much easier to see from this perspective. Here's the tray, and here's the first tab that you have to get to, right down here. And the second tab is over here on this side. So essentially, to remove the tray, press both of the tabs outward at the same time, and push it forward a little bit, and there we go. It'll come out nice and smoothly. And now we'll have better access to the belts down here. Now that the tray is out, we can see the belt firsthand, and it doesn't exactly look like anything's out of shape, so belts are a little bit misleading sometimes. It looks like it fits on the wheel perfectly, right? Well, if we turn it a little bit though... Yep, just as I expected. You can see the belt popping a little bit when you go back and forth like this, and that is a sure sign that it's loose. The belt is not supposed to have this amount of give to it. It should be tight enough to give the proper exertion of force, but loose enough to allow for overexertion, and this is a little bit too stretched over time. This is why the player has no trouble pulling in the tray, but struggles when it's lifting a disc. The belt is tight enough to allow for the force of the tray, but Laserdiscs are heavy, so it struggles when lifting them into position. And just as I thought, this is in fact a square belt. You can tell from the shape of it, it's, well, shaped like a square. I have in fact procured a small set of square belts from eBay, and my general method for determining size is to look at them next to each other. The first thing that I look for if it's an assorted pack is the diameter. I try to find a belt that is just a little bit smaller than the previous one to account for the stretching. So, this here is the original belt, and let's start trying some of these out. Let's see. This one is actually like roughly the same size. I mean, it might work, but nah. How about you? I suppose so. It's just the other thing to look out for is does the diameter match? And this one, the original belt is a little bit thicker than this one, so I'm going to nix that. What about, let's try that. There we go. That one seems like it's a good size match for it. So let me move all these out of the way. Okay, and yep, this is exactly what I look for. So the belt is pretty much just a touch smaller and more or less about the right thickness around. Another word on the gauge though, if the belt is actually physically too small, it won't be able to hold up to the tension of the player, and the motor is not going to be able to pull the tray open or close just by virtue of the belt being a little bit too thin. This one I think looks thick enough though, so I'm gonna give it a try anyway, and well, let's put it in the player and see what happens. I tend to find installation is a little bit easier this way. Just put the belt back onto the smaller wheel and try to fit it onto the larger one like so. This is a little bit of a tight fit since there is some plastic in the way, but if we just gingerly wrap it around, we can kinda set it into place. Give the wheel a few spins back and forth to make sure the belt is both straight and set into the groove properly, and we're ready to reinstall the tray. Next, take the tray and get ready to slide it back into the mechanism. You'll see both of the clasping points get ready to click into place like so. There we go. And it's at this point that I want to bring up something very, very important. Do not, under any circumstances, try to shove the tray closed. You'll have a potential nightmare on your hands. Sometimes the tray gets back onto the guides a little bit askew and it will not close all of the way. So, guide it slowly like I'm doing here. Aha, there we go. Yep, just as I thought. When you get to this point, if you feel resistance on the tray and it's still like halfway out, don't push it. Take the tray back out and reset it on the guides. I do have a little trick for this as well. I do find that when you first push the tray back in, it wants to push in a little bit more on the left side than on the right, and generally that's kind of what makes it go in askew. There's a track on the bottom of this thing, and these grooves help guide the tray into the player when you first open and close it. So if we look on the side over here, you'll notice that this portion right here is incredibly smooth, but if we look back at the other side, this edge over here has teeth on it, and I think this is the main cause of this. Essentially, one side of the tray has a little bit more give to it, so it kind of goes in misaligned. It's a little bit fiddly to get back on track, but there we go. Okay, perfect. Try to keep the tray as even as possible and angle it very, very slightly to the right. Apply most of your force there, no matter how far left it wants to go, and once you get past that point right there where it's clicked, keep going, and hopefully this will do the trick. There we go. And if you're able to get the tray slowly all the way back into the machine, you should be good to turn it on. Okay, moment of truth. Let's see if the belt worked. Well, the mechanism is working, and that's a good sign. I'm gonna give it an easier test first. How about a video CD? Video CD is a weirdly particular format. It's a hybrid disc. Analog Laserdisc video combined with CD audio, so you can watch a music video if you have a Laserdisc player, or listen to the CD audio inside of a CD player. Let's see what happens. Good so far. It did well hauling a video CD into position, but moment of truth. Will it haul a Laserdisc into position? Yes! Awesome! God, I am ecstatic about this. It's working!
Display. On display? I eventually had to go down to the cellar. That's the display department. With a torch. The lights are probably gone. So had the stairs. But you did see the notice, didn't you? Oh, yes. It was on display in the bottom of a locked filing cabinet stuck in a disused lavatory with a sign outside the door saying, "Beware of the leopard." Ever thought of going into advertising?
Alright, I'm ecstatic that it's working right now, but I'm curious, how will it handle a flip to side B? yeah, it's running.
This ship is brand new.
Why? Have you got some exotic device measuring the age of metal?
I just found a sales brochure lying on the floor. It says the universe can be yours for a mere 5 quilliard Alterian dollars. Cheap? A quilliard is a whole page full of noughts with a 1 at the beginning. This is what I was after. Sensational new breakthrough in improbability physics. As a ship's drive reaches infinite improbability, it passes simultaneously through every point in the universe. Be the envy of other major governments. I mean, wow! This is really big league stuff.
Well, it's a whole lot better than that dingy Vogon crate. This is my idea of a spaceship. All gleaming metal, flashing lights, everything. Oh, I wonder what will happen if I press this button.
Don't.
Oh,
What happened?
a sign lit up saying, please do not press this button again.
I'm super psyched about this. There is nothing more rewarding for me than finding some broken machinery and figuring out how to fix it, especially if it's a player that I've had my eyes on for a while. The DVL-919 is one that I've been after for a long time, just for the sheer amount of awesome dripping from it. It plays everything that I could ever want it to, and it has a lot of special capabilities for different formats, but that's really something to discuss another time. I enjoy a lot of different forms of media. Music, video games, literature, television, plays, movies, all of them have different places in my heart, and I love seeing and hearing creative concepts come to life. Alongside the appreciation for various forms of media, I wound up developing an insatiable interest in the technology that reproduces all of those mediums: video cassettes, AV receivers, Nintendo, PlayStation, and of course, Laserdisc. I love the art forms and I love the technology that reproduces them. The two will always be intertwined for me, and I especially love finding new and special ways to watch movies. Since the DVL-919 is back together, it's time to put it to the test and see what I can do with it. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, you know what to do.